First, I would say education. People need to be educated even about the process. Most of the time, even the so-called people who talks about these issues don't really have in-depth knowledge about the process itself. I think it's very important that people need to be educated about the process while we are talking about it. And the unrealistic nature of our data, especially the voters register, is very, very important. And it affects whatever reform that we do. Because the process, the most important part of the electoral process is the information on the people that are actually going to vote. If your voter register is 40, that means everything is 40 ab initio. Credibility of the accreditation rather of the voters too is very key. But I think we've been able to solve that using the beavers. The beavers have done a lot of help in actually reducing the fraud in accreditation. Although some areas, some people are still bypassing it one way or the other, but I believe that will only be achieved with the connivance of the polling agent, other party agents within the polling units. So it is very important that we also make sure that the issue of presiding officers and the polling agents are also addressed to have a very good reform. And these are the people that we actually pay peanuts. The presiding officers who are usually youth corpers. We pay them peanuts. We don't even look at their mode of recruitment. And yet we talk about how to recruit the INEC chairman. The INEC chairman on the day of election will not even be on the field. And it is the result that is collated that he actually announces on the day after the election. So it is very key that we look into the area of the presiding officer and the polling party agents. If a political party will not even produce enough agents for the units that is contesting in, that means you have actually given your opponent an advantage. So these are part of the areas, and violence too should be also looked into. We are talking about the reforms. How do we ensure that there is no violence in an electoral process? Because this is the area that ensures that we drive away some voters. We reduce the number of voters within the area. That is voter suppression. We always encourage when we don't do anything about violence in our electoral process. The judicial system also will play a major role, because if we don't have the judicial system that will address irregularities on time, they say justice delayed is justice denied. Vote buying and vote selling too is one of the major problems. How do we address this? In fact, the major problem now is that there are more people even selling votes than even those buying. There was an incident where one of the electoral officers said he saw a woman who came to ask him that why are these people not patronizing him. She wanted to cooperate with them, but they are not calling her. That means she went there to be patronized. And I think it's part of our orientation. And that's why one of the areas that the National Orientation Agency will need to even come in. And public trust is also one major issue, which I will also put on the doorstep of religion and ethnicity. Most of the time, no matter what you do, if it's not your person in power, unless you don't want to believe is fair and the election will be free or will be credible. If it is your own power, government that is the power, yes, you want to accept. But once it's not your government or your person, we practice this government of it's our turn or it's our people. And until we are able to look at issues dispassionately, irrespective of who is in government or which party is in government or which tribe is in government or which religion is in government, we should be able to trust ourselves, trust the system. So we need to now build a system that everybody must believe in. So these are some of the areas that we must address when we really want our process to be free, fair, and also inclusive. So inclusion is also very key in the electoral process. How are the less privileged taken care of in ensuring that they all have access to vote? The people with disability, how do they have access to vote and be voted for? Gender, how are they not discriminated against? So discrimination in terms of gender, age, sex, class must be removed from the system for us to have a very good electoral process. When it comes to low public trust, that means people, if you don't believe in the system, that means you've already agreed, we have already accepted that such results from any system that you don't believe in will not be credible. Because it's very important, you must trust your system for it to be credible, for you to accept the outcome. So the danger is for us not to trust in our system, then we are actually creating chaos. We are encouraging a system that will not be trusted. So I think the majority of this problem now should be, I think the media too will play a lot of a role in ensuring that we educate ourselves and instill trust in the system. Because as long as there's no trust, there's nothing you can do. That is the foundation of a credible election. The acceptance of an election is not just only about the outcome, it's the process and our trust in the process that actually determine if an election will be deemed to be credible or not. Imagine when we had the 1993 general election where Abiola won during the SDP and NRC. It was an open ballot system. People queued. And you know there are a lot of also negative, social implications when it comes to open ballots. Imagine a landlord and a tenant being on different queue, or someone who is actually your breadwinner is in on one queue and you're on another queue. You know there are a lot of social implications to it. But because people trusted the system, because we are happy with the system at that time, there was nothing like people having a distrust about the then electoral umpire. So that was why people never felt anything was wrong. You know, even at that period, Abiola and Kingibe too were also Muslim. There was a Muslim ticket at that period. But because there was trust in the system, nobody cared. And they still voted for them willingly and even overwhelmingly at that period. So you see, that's where the issue of trusting the system plays a major role than the actual process. The process can be the same, but if the trust level is different, then the outcome will be perceived to be different. When it comes to technology, I believe technology, like they say, it should be innovation out of an invention out of need. So we must our technology must be based on need, must be based on a process. But most of the time, we always want to acquire technology that we don't need, that is not even suitable for our system. In our electoral process, the most important technology we have ever used is the beavers, because that's one that has been able to remove the issue of accreditation, the multiple accreditation that usually happen in Nigeria. Like I tell people, the fear of beavers is the beginning of freedom to any politician. Because now, because of the biometric system, you cannot vote twice. You cannot be accredited twice. So that means whatever fraud you are doing must be within the number of people present in that polling unit. So you don't really have a situation where 50 people will be within a polling unit, but because the restriction in that place is about 5,000, and they will vote the whole 5,000. Despite the fact that we just have less than 100 people living or actually present during the election. So Beavers has been able to remove this, and that particular problem is the biggest of all challenges, even bigger than the voters register itself, because as long as you cannot even vote more than the people present, it doesn't even matter if you have inflated the voters register. And that's why most of the time we think they are actually voter party. Most of the time we say they are voter party, people are not actually coming out. But the issue is most of these registers are 40. Some people's names have appeared maybe 20 times, moving from one place to another. And so many people who actually registered and moved to somewhere else and now registered there again. Some who have registered and moved out of the country are no longer in the country, are no longer voting. Some who are dead. And there's no way we can actually do this. And that's one of the reasons we want to also introduce the NIN in the voters register. So that will be able to clean up the data. And by the time everybody puts his or her NIN, all those ones without NIN will naturally be removed out of the system. That's when we now know the actual number of available voters. So that's when we can now know actually if there's any voter party or that we are just been working with 40 data all this while. So it is very key for us to look at the data as a major source of reform. Well, on the issue of transparency and accountability, one, we must make our laws and guidelines very unambiguous, because if laws are ambiguous, then it gets difficult for the judiciary to interpret and for even the people to really understand. And some people can take advantage of this. Then transparency and accountability would be in question. And also, we must create a level playing ground for all actors. And one of the areas we want to achieve this is first to ensure that INEC offices are removed from all local government offices or government offices, so that we don't want a situation where during collation of results, some parties might be prevented from entering INEC compound because the compound are already within the local government premises. So this might give some the ruling party advantage over the other parties. Then the rule of law. There must be full implementation of the rule of law. Anybody that hears must be punished. If there are consequences to actions, then people will deter from taking such actions. But as long as someone is able to do it and get away with it, then others will continue to do it. So, rule of law, the level playing ground, and unambiguous laws and guidelines are very important when it comes to transparency and accountability in our electoral process. The psyche of Nigerians must be addressed. The upcoming youths must be addressed in a way to see election as a process to select credible people, and not election as a means to enhance financial ends. Because as long as we see politics as a means to financial ends, then there will be problem. But if you see politics as service, then even when you lose an election, it doesn't bother you. You feel, well, it's just another vocation. It's just like I want to serve my club or any other activity. But as long as we leave it that way, and as long as we create impression of or that if you're in politics is a means of resource allocation, is a means of hijacking resources of the country, then the need for people, the urge for people to use any means to get to the office will be very, very high. And I also want to appeal to the National Orientation Agency again to come up with various programs, especially targeting the youth and students, to let them understand basic things about elections, about public service, about service to humanity, so that our urge to get into public office, the drive should change. The drive must be changed from what we have today. It is until we're able to do that, on average, the next coming generation might be worse than what we have today. And the way we also celebrate wealth must be addressed. A public office holder should not be seen to have performed or successful based on the wealth it displays, but about the contribution, that those intangible contributions that he has made on the floor of the house, or even on in wherever office he found himself. So it is very important that we address all these issues, because it is not only about law. You can't legislate everything. You can't legislate good behavior. You can only give them consequences. But a situation where some people believe that I'd rather make it or die trying, then the law cannot even make any difference in such a situation.